Welcome to Mamamia Out Loud. It's what women are actually talking about on Wednesday, the 13th of August. I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Jessie Stevens.
And I'm Amelia Lester.
And here's what's made our agenda for today. Pubs, restaurants and the tennis. One female player's reaction to a noisy child has reignited a debate about where kids are welcome, and we do not agree.
And why the Mamamia office went into a frenzy over Taylor Swift yesterday. We are going to unpack the PR of it all because some Swifties are saying it was a bit clumsy. So there is a theory. Yep, there's a theory.
And orange. Are you going to explain to me orange?
I'm mint green.
Good. Okay, good. Please excuse me while I press refresh on my pre-order for Pammy's pickles.
Okay.
Yes, I'm talking about my gardening buddy and my no makeup icon, Pamela Anderson, and her new pickle line. This week she announced that she has made some pickles. If anyone doesn't know what pickles are, cucumbers, vinegar, that's pretty much it, right? She's made a new line of pickles. All the money's going to charity. They are $58 a jar, Australian.
I like pickles.
I love pickles.
Not $58, but
they've also got rose petals in them, which is a little concerning. But
it's a bit Megan.
Pamela's pickling news tickled me no end because I love me a celebrity condiment and I like to see some new entries to the marketplace.
Yeah.
So, Brooklyn Beckham's Cloud 29 hot sauce. I love hot sauce. Like I've got 25 different hot sauces in my fridge.
Do you have Brookies yet?
No, I would like it. It's $53 a bottle. Ed Sheeran has a hot sauce. It's called Tingly Ted Chili Sauce. It's a very reasonable $12.
Did you know that one of the FAQs on the website is, Ed Sheeran, why do you have a hot sauce? And he's like, I really like hot sauce. That's the whole reason.
So I could have a hot sauce?
Yes, you could have a hot sauce too.
Holly's hot sauce. Glenn Powell's Smash Kitchen has an eye out for your wallet. He's got ketchup, mustards, barbecue sauce and mayonnaise, and they're all only about $5 a piece. Swoon. Megan's Jam, of course, preserve. Good luck getting your hands on that. And John Bon Jovi has a pasta sauce. And question, why celebrity condiments? And also, as much as I love condiments, do they taste better if a hot person makes them?
Yeah, they absolutely do. So there's a few reasons, I think. The first is I feel like you can own unlimited condiments and that we all feel like we might be one condiment from Yummy, right? So it's like beauty products. I'm one product from Beautiful.
I'm one lipstick away from
exactly nailing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. We are one condiment from going, and it's kind of the lipstick effect in that you may not be able to afford all of the fancy foods at the moment, but you will get that condiment that you know isn't one meal, but you use it over many. And that's why they say condiments are recession-proof. So they're something that if you invest in as a celebrity or you put your face to it, then it's a good economic move. And apparently, I didn't know this, condiment talk, big deal.
Oh.
Condiments are very big on TikTok, so all the celebs are jumping on.
I've got a bit of a Megan angle on this, which is that Pammy is doing this for Flamingo Estate.
Yeah.
Which is a Los Angeles-based kind of farm goods beauty products line. It's actually sold in Mecca here. And many people say that Megan's, as ever, is modelled on Flamingo Estate. Now, what is interesting is, one, I have been to Flamingo Estate. I once did a story where I went there, and it's the most beautiful farm in Southern California, and it literally looks like the Garden of Eden. And I just imagine Pammy with her hair up in the iconic claw clip bun, because that's also hygienic when you're making condiments to get the hair out of the way, just sort of pickling her cauliflower and her cucumbers in this beautiful garden.
This is my dream. You are describing my dream.
The light.
She wears white while she's in the garden at all times also, Pammy, which is very, very, very impractical.
And did you follow the fact that she was, when she was first asked about Megan and Megan's cooking products empire, she was very dismissive of it. But then when she was asked about it recently, she said there's plenty of room for celebrity cooking shows and that she didn't invent them. So there's a way in which Pammy and Megs are kind of evolving on parallel tracks here.
That's so interesting. I also reckon that there's nothing controversial about a condiment. Like it feels like a very safe, low barrier to entry space to enter into. There's a few other things that would probably be harder.
I have a question. Does Liam Neeson like Pammy's pickles?
I'm sure he does.
So I wanted to show you something.
Okay. What do we got?
We got
A briefcase.
Yep.
Mint green with TS on it.
Yep.
What's in it?
This is my brand new album, The Life of a Showgirl.
TS12!
That
Is
sounds
that like grown men losing their shit? Is that what I just heard?
Sounds like The Office 24 hours ago is exactly the sound that was ringing through the Mamamia office. There's a tweet that we republished on our Instagram yesterday morning that read, "It's a big day for annoying people." And then in brackets it said me. And on Tuesday, if you were in a workplace, you may have noticed a considerable drop in productivity around 12 minutes past 2 Sydney time. Perhaps there were people gathering at desks. It sounded exactly like that. There were groans, there were screams, there were squeals. Something TS12, New Heights, Showgirl, Mint Green, a podcast clip. Friends, I don't understand much, but what I do know is that Taylor Allison Swift, friend of the pod, has a new album and it is called
Friend of the pod. Yeah, she listens. She definitely listens.
No, I have beef because she did not decide to come on here to announce this album. It is called The Life of a Showgirl. We also know that tomorrow we will be able to listen to the first podcast interview Taylor has done in years, and the interviewers will be her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, and his brother, Jason. If you are not a Swiftie, if you don't know that Taylor's favourite number is 13, something minus 1 equals 12,
Oh my
I don't
God,
know,
kill me.
and you're not into decoding puzzles that include something about a glitter emoji, then don't panic. We're not here to delve into every single little detail, but what we do want to do is look at this PR strategy, because some of it, by Taylor's standards, felt a bit rushed. And the decision to sit down with Travis rather than, say, Alex Cooper and call her daddy, some people have feelings about it. Now, I want to take a few steps back. Amelia, this is one of your areas of expertise. We know you went to Harvard. This was one of the courses you took. Speak to me about the leak theory.
Here's how things happened yesterday, how I experienced them Australian Eastern Standard Time. Yesterday morning, was walking around a supermarket and my phone started blowing up with images on X and on Reddit of what looked like photos from Taylor Swift's new album. There was a photo of her in a very dramatic black bob. There was also a photo of her in sort of Vegas showgirl garb. And there were also a list of tracks. And people were speculating that this was the album that there's been chatter about for a while. Because
Can I put my hand up and ask a question? Wasn't the last album just like 5 minutes ago? The Tortured Poets. Was that last year?
It's been the second longest hiatus that she's
Oh,
taken.
goodness me. And it's only been, what, a year?
Second longest.
A year and a bit?
Prolific, Holly. She just is so prolific.
I see. I didn't know we were expecting a drop.
There
But
were
that's because I'm not a Swiftie.
No, you weren't clowning. There were various clues that one was coming, which I won't bore you with, but these images got leaked. And then also some lyrics leaked on the lyrics website Genius. And then we all somehow went to TaylorSwift.com. You know how these things happen on the internet? Yeah. Everyone's suddenly on TaylorSwift.com. It turned into a bright orange glittery countdown to 12/12/12 Eastern time. So that's the time on the East Coast of the US, which was 2 p.m. Australian Eastern. And then when the countdown ended, we were greeted with a shop with the pre-sales for an album, which, as you mentioned, Jessie, is going to be called The Life of a Showgirl. And then as if that wasn't enough, then the New Heights clip dropped. New Heights is the podcast that Travis and Jason Kelce host, which they recently got $100 million for. And that's when she announced that she's going to be on the show tomorrow, Thursday.
I have one other question. Do I have to buy the album? Don't I just get to listen to it for nothing? What do you mean pre-order? What do you mean shop?
Yeah, are people actually
What am I talking
like
about?
the
What are you talking
vinyl?
about?
Apparently the Australian shop was literally impossible to get into and people kept being redirected to the American shop. That's how popular it was.
Do you mean to buy a vinyl copy?
To pre-order a vinyl copy.
Holy smokies.
I want to talk a bit about why she chose to go on New Heights, though.
Yes, this is the part I am really interested in.
Yeah,
because
I'm unimpressed.
Okay, and your sentiment, Holly, it is reflected on the internet. There is a viral comment that says Taylor Swift has led me to places I wouldn't even go with a gun, listening to a podcast hosted by men. Commentator Hannah Ferguson wrote, "Yes, I will be the first listener, but imagine being one of the most successful women in the world and announcing your next huge career milestone on your boyfriend's sports podcast." Why do we think she decided to do that, Holly Wainwright?
Well, Amelia
Holly
wants to tell us.
Wainwright?
I can't tell you why, but I can tell you that I don't like it.
No.
But we'll get to that.
Amelia,
Tell us
You
why.
are wrong. You are wrong. Taylor and Travis have become an iconic unit in themselves. And just also overnight, as if there wasn't enough news, Travis came out on the cover of US GQ's September issue, which is a really big deal. And he was styled in that by Law Roach, who's Zendaya's stylist. Like, he has become a huge iconic figure in American pop culture as a result of his relationship with Taylor, in addition to his football career.
He plays football, apparently.
Tight end.
When he's not being Taylor Swift's boyfriend.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to unpack why I think they're such a good couple together and why it therefore makes sense for her to announce this on his podcast. Let's run through a few things they have in common. Both have parents who separated in their early adulthood, and this is something that is a big canon event for Travis. He talks about it a lot in the GQ article. They were both in their early 20s when their parents divorced. They maintained close relationships with their parents, and their parents maintained close relationships with each other. Secondly, both very close to their brothers. Taylor's brother, Austin, is in charge of her music licensing business. Travis hosts this podcast with his brother. Both talk a lot about having a really strong work ethic. They both love self-promotion. They're both very unabashed about it, and we love that for them. And then finally,
No, we don't. Not all of us do.
before the Gen X that talks about selling out, there's an anecdote in the GQ piece which I want to share because I think it really gets at what these two seemingly very different people actually see in each other. Travis is at a restaurant with a singing waiter. I don't know why. It's one of those odd celebrity profile tropes where you go to a weird restaurant. And the singing waiter comes over to the table and starts singing Lauryn Hill's song X Factor. Now that sounds a little cringe-inducing, a little mortifying, and the interviewer is very embarrassed. But he looks across at Travis, and Travis is sitting hands in lap, gazing up respectfully at this singing waiter and just listening until the end of the song and then thanking her for her service as she moves along to the next table. That reminded me of how the one thing we know about Taylor Allison Swift outside of the law is that she's extremely respectful to people, no matter their station. We've heard a lot about how she tips people enormous amounts over the holidays. Fans say she's extremely gracious to them. I think that's what these two people have in common. They're people who market themselves as normal people, and they have the good manners and the behavior to kind of back up that demeanor.
Yeah, but all you've done there is tell me why they're a good match. And that's fine, right? That's so fine. I'm so glad for them. Very happy for them. Very happy. We've all heard a lot about the less good matches that Taylor has dated. And I love those songs. In fact, I'm much more here for a heartbreak song than a happy song, generally speaking. And I know this is my Gen X coding that is deep within me, right? That finds it a tiny bit icky that it's all so marketing, like all the time. And I know that, and I'm so sorry because I know Swifties will hate me so much for saying this, but I love Taylor Swift. I think she's a genius. But the thing about her that grates me is the intensely thought out everything at all times.
Oh, I love that.
The 12 eyes in this, the 12 pictures on the thing, the 12 this, the 12 that. And the fact that nothing is organic, I find that difficult. And I know it's my Gen X coding. It's like intrusive thoughts. I can't help it. I'm like, shut up, Holly. And I'm like, isn't it great that she's going out with a blokey bloke? And then I'm like, but do jocks really need another win? No. But they're like, shush, Holly, stop it. Like, I just can't with them. And so I know that they're lovely. But here's my thing that I find really interesting is sure, they're very happy and I'm sure they're going to go on to be very happy. But it's so interesting to do such a 180 from being a very private person in your love life, because even with all the song lyrics, she's always intensely private. Like when she went out with that, what's his name?
Joe Alwyn.
Yes, like they went out of their way to barely be photographed together. Like silhouettes of him would appear. And then, so her and Travis are on stage, they're on each other's podcasts. And I think that's wonderful because maybe he's really comfortable with her success. But isn't it a weird 360? And then to go, I'm going to direct millions and millions of listens to this show. Like it's just.
If that was her choice when it came to Joe Alwyn or other relationships that she had, those relationships didn't work and she's landed with Travis.
Well, they did work for a time. Like
Yeah, but they ultimately ended, and Travis is the first partner of Taylor who is an unashamed fanboy.
I'm going to pull you up on that. Tom Hiddleston wore the I Heart TS tank at her Rhode
Okay.
Island
Yeah,
July
but they were
4th
pat
birthday
pictures.
party.
They were pat pictures. So it's different.
Okay.
Like paparazzi being caught out, like, there are photographs of her with all these people, but most of them are pap, right? Generally speaking, she has tried to keep it very much on the down low. And I'm all for evolution. So maybe she's very much like, and look at that. That was bullshit. And I think of all the wasted energy of not being out and proud in the two of us. But it's just, I don't know.
Okay, I have some PR theories that I have gleaned from the internet. Okay, so she is above doing the circuit, the podcast circuit.
Oh, obviously.
Right?
She hasn't even given any
That's
interview
what I
for
wanted to
years.
ask. Why this podcast, a football podcast, as opposed to Call Her Daddy?
Well, I reckon that it is about, she can obviously do any podcast in the world. She would be most comfortable with Travis. She gets to be candid, but she also gets to have total control. Whereas if she were on anyone else's platform, she probably wouldn't. Imagine how reluctant you would be after she has done sort of podcast interviews in the past, like 5 years ago or so. But we know she controls publicity around her so carefully.
She would have total control if she went on Call Her Daddy. Total control. Like there is no more powerful pop culture figure in the world. We all know about Tree Payne, who's her legendary publicist, who has
But you know what?
cracks a whip. Like she could have chosen any of them, Dax, Mark, but they're all blokes.
Yeah.
Except for Alex.
The format of those is long form. And I don't think that Taylor is particularly comfortable doing long form.
Fair.
She gets to decide if this is 5 or 10 or 15
How
minutes.
long do you think it's going to be?
I don't think it's going to be an hour. I reckon it's probably going to be like 15.
I don't think Travis is really into an hour-long interview with anyone.
No. And this is my other theory. Okay. So GQ interview. Travis does talk a little bit about Taylor. And anything he says has been, Tree has checked it and he's just repeating what he's allowed to say. He talked about how Taylor is like an athlete. He's been blown away by she walks off stage and he just goes, that was an athletic performance, how tired she is afterwards, all of that, which I think is hyping up the album because the album's going to be all about the Eras tour and the Showgirl and blah, blah, blah. Now, why would she go on New Heights?
Because it's her boyfriend's show and she can...
Theory, Holly Wainwright. There is one thing she's never done. She's never done the Super Bowl, right? And she has been on the record as saying, I want to do 6 albums or something before I do the Super Bowl. She was doing the Eras tour for years and years and years.
Jessie, I just got chills.
She's going to do the Super Bowl.
I see where you're taking this.
There's something about the Super Bowl happening next year, something about it happening in California, which has some relationship to Orange. I think she's doing the Super Bowl.
Wait, what's the orange
I
got to do
don't
with
know,
it?
Amelia. I don't understand any of the clues.
This was such a good theory up until
my
the point where
God.
you threw orange into the
Just
equation.
everything is orange now.
All right. It's my cynical side. I know it is. My Gen X cynical side. Every relationship is a happy ending till it isn't. You often regret being quite so gushy and open in a relationship. Who hasn't been there? 2 years in, you're telling everybody, this is my person. I've never felt more understood. 6 months later, you're like, what did I ever see in that dick?
So what? Like, even if they break up tomorrow, it's like she's done so many different announcements for albums. Remember last time she got so much shit because she did it at the
Grammys or the VMAs.
And so people went, yeah, you're stealing someone's moment. And then with this one, it's like, yeah, you're with your boyfriend. I mean, it's just an album announcement.
That's 100% true. That is 100% true. But I think that one of the things that the Taylor law does is encourages overanalyzation. That's the whole point.
Yeah, she's a
That's
walking
the whole point
escape
of her
room.
world. So
yeah.
it's not like who cares. It's like there's got to be a reason.
I have one more question for Amelia, which is, if we go, these leaks started yesterday, Tree Payne would have been on the phone having a panic attack. Do we think that something hasty happened yesterday? Do you think that yesterday unfolded like it was, like the plan was, or did they have to make changes in real time about the kind of announcement?
It's interesting because it is her 12th album, so the numerology of it all kind of added up. I looked closely at her presentation in the podcast video. She had a perfect cat eye, which was interesting, but I imagine it's probably not hard for Taylor Swift to rustle up a makeup artist on short notice, or maybe she's even perfected her own cat eye at this point. I think she was wearing a shirt that she tucked in because she wanted to avoid pregnancy speculation.
Okay.
As to whether this was planned, the podcast appearance, she could have done that on the fly. They appeared to be home together at one of their many mansions in the American Midwest, and it could have been something that was pulled together very quickly.
And maybe that's the reason. Like maybe there wasn't time to do all the contracts and all of that for Call Her Daddy, and they just went, screw it, we'll do Travis. Here he is with his microphone.
I also love that Taylor Swift's version of a chaotic album launch would be anybody else's like mastermind precision.
I will say, one of our content producers is a Swiftie. And
Just
she
only
says-
one. I think there's quite a lot more than one.
There's so many of them, and they're yelling thing. There was an equation on the board yesterday, and I still don't understand. And someone said something about an equation.
It's like Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind.
It's exactly like that, the Swifties. And she says that the Chiefs colours, the Chiefs is who Travis played with, and he won the Super Bowl with the Chiefs, is red and yellow. And what do those colours make together, ladies? Oh my goodness, it's orange.
But here's one question about the Super Bowl. There's no guarantee the Chiefs are going to be in the Super Bowl. Is it like if the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl, Taylor will do it?
That's a good point.
And if the Chiefs do not, she will not.
there
And then
has
they
to
need a
do
backup.
it.
Sabrina Carpenter could do it.
There is scurrilous gossip, very scurrilous, that the Chiefs, it's in the NFL's interest, the National Football League's interest, to make sure that the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs have been at 2 of the last 2 Super Bowls. They lost the last one, but they're still there. I'm just leaving that there.
Okay, over to tennis news.
I like tennis news.
I know you do. You are a tennis correspondent, and I will be relying on your knowledge heavily here, just as we're relying on Amelia Lester for the Taylor Swift knowledge. 22-year-old British tennis player Emma Raducanu was playing a match against Aryna Sabalenka at the Cincinnati Open in the land of the free this week. She was losing, and during a crucial point in the third set, a child in the crowd started crying. After a while, Raducanu gestures to the umpire like, "You're always saying quiet, please. So what about this bullshit then?" And this is what happened. This is what the umpire said back.
It's a child. Do you want me to send the child out of the stadium? You can call in, but we need to continue for the moment.
What you can hear there is the crowd all saying, "Yes, kick the baby out."
And they all applauded.
And Emma was kind of like, she didn't say it, but she was kind of like shrugging like, "Yeah, kick the baby out." Details are sketchy on what actually happened next, but Emma did lose the match. Jessie, should the kid have been at the tennis match in the first place?
I am on the record as saying that kids and babies everywhere, let them in. I remember we talked about a comedy show years ago. Well, Amelia, I think that it's really important because where kids aren't allowed, their parents aren't allowed either. But in this case, and how it works in tennis, is this was a really critical point. This was a really important moment in the match. And what actually should have happened is that umpire should have sorted that out. Like, it's their job to keep quiet, to keep everything quiet. I think the important context is that wasn't a baby squawking. It wasn't a baby who had cried for 30 seconds. It was a baby who had been crying for 10 minutes, according to reports. And it was kind of starting and stopping and starting and stopping, and she was finding it really distracting. Now, in a tennis match, if there are people walking around, if a phone is going off, like there are signs everywhere at tennis saying turn your phones off. There have been cases where someone's wearing a watch and the watch is distracting to the person who's about to serve and they ask them to take the watch off. Like, that is how the sport works.
Yeah, but isn't that changing? Because I feel like we've discussed this a lot, that, you know, at Wimbledon now, at the Australian Open now, people get up and go to the bar, people cheer, people jeer, and there's been a lot of, lighten up everybody. Like, we can't expect people to sit in silence anymore.
Well, apparently what they ordinarily do is make sure that if you have young kids with you, they sit you near the exit.
Yeah.
So there's an understanding that if the child starts making noise, then you move out.
At Wimbledon, they don't let kids under 5 in.
Yeah, and I can understand that because of the nature of the match. So I actually am on the side of the tennis player here. I think that the umpire probably should have sorted it, or someone in the crowd. But in defense of the mother or father who was with that child, the other thing you're not really meant to do during tennis matches is move. It's really distracting. So often an umpire will turn around and go, "Can you sit down?" because they're trying to serve and there's all this movement. So they might have just been like, "Oh, I don't know whether I'm meant to move or not." But I do think, and this is just common sense, right? I think sometimes we treat parents as though they have no self-awareness about any context or environment. It's like, I remember having to take her to a premiere for something. Babysitter fell through. The second she started and she got upset, it was just, you get her out. You just, in the same way that if I was sitting at the tennis and I had a coughing fit, I would go, oh, I'm going to get out because I'm just aware of everyone else. So I think that the media has tried to drum this up as like, ooh, hostility towards kids. I don't think that's what it is. I'm actually on the side of the tennis player. What do you think, Amelia?
I think that there is this encroaching hostility towards kids. And I was reading the comment section on stories around this tennis story, and people were like, this is how I feel on planes.
Oh,
and I wonder if there's a distinction to be made between spaces where children kind of have to be if they're going to be living their lives, and that includes going to airports and potentially other supermarkets, other places where you have to go. And I do think there's an argument to be made that maybe children shouldn't be in more optional spaces like a tennis match.
I wonder though, if they're allowed, if the venue is open to them being there, then like I've gone to comedy shows or theatre things and it is sort of there's a certain age bracket of when you can go. But look, would I take Luna at that? I think that she would find it really boring. Apparently it was really, really hot. It's very long.
That's the thing. I hate the idea of setting kids up to fail. And part of the reason why I prefer not to take my children to restaurants, even though I know lots of people who think it's a very important life skill for children to acquire, is because I just think it's setting them up to fail. You're taking them to a place where, as you said, at the tennis they can't even move.
Yeah.
Like that, don't take children to a place where they can't move. At a restaurant, they're forced to sit down and order off a menu of things that probably doesn't include mac and cheese and, speak in an indoor voice and all these things which I guess children should be learning how to do, but which they're not always equipped to do at the end of a long day.
But what do you call a restaurant, right? Because I sympathize with you if I'm paying lots of money to sit in a rarefied room, you know what I mean? Like some kind of fancy, very adulty space. But increasingly, cafes, restaurants, pubs with beer gardens, all those kind of things cater to kids like they do, right? And so surely that's fine.
Well, that's actually a really interesting question around pubs, because that's a very much live issue in Australia right now. And what I didn't realize is how recent a phenomenon it is to take children to pubs. Do you know it wasn't until 2007 that New South Wales made it technically legal to take children into pubs?
Really? Because there used to be a thing. I remember when I was growing up and I was a kid, if we were ever at a pub, then it was like there was an area you couldn't cross. Do you remember that? Like there was a
and
thing.
there still are in
Is
clubs.
that a thing?
And also children can't go near the bar.
Yes.
But a lot of pub owners are sort of saying that they've gone too far in making them too children-friendly, too family-friendly, because when adults drink, they don't become responsible parents, and their kids are running around this space that really was designed for adults, and the parents are taking their eyes off the ball, so to speak. And I was curious about whether we think it's a good idea in terms of what we're teaching children about. Look, I have to be honest, every Monday night in my neighborhood, the pub has kids eat free. And it is a huge social scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I go there every Monday. This is very much me interrogating my own patterns here. But it turns out that there is this new study from Australian researchers that makes the claim that the more time kids spend at pubs, I want to get the wording here exactly right, the higher the risks they face from alcohol in the future. And that's essentially because, one, it's glorified advertising for alcohol. You see your parents out at the pub, they're having fun, you think alcohol's fun. And two, it sends a longer-term message that it norms alcohol and the use of alcohol. It says that when adults get together, they drink. And when I read that, I felt sad about my Monday evenings.
Oh, no. I'm here to defend your Monday evenings with my life. Because I accept all that. But the thing is, and this certainly isn't true for everybody, like Australia is a very multicultural society and there are lots of sections of Australia where alcohol is not a part of all socialising. But there is, in the mainstream norm, alcohol is legal when you're over 18. You're allowed to drink responsibly. We have some very strict rules that govern around that and who can be served in pubs and all those things, stricter than in some other places in the world. So there's also an argument that children seeing parents drink responsibly is not the end of the world, right? It depends. I think that I would argue, so for myself, if I know particularly when I lived in the city, I don't live in the city anymore, but for all the time that my kids were young, I lived in a area of the town where me and all my friends lived in small units that didn't have gardens, that didn't have, we couldn't have each other round. You know what I mean? That isn't what happened.
Often that's not even a dining table.
Of course not. There was not a dining table, not any of that stuff. So we would meet in public spaces, and we met in parks, and we met in cafes, and we met in pubs, no question. And sometimes now I cringe a little bit at some of the places I took my kids to, but I had no family support. I had no, official babysitters. Like, we were our community, and the kids went where we went, right? And we went to bowling clubs where the kids would run amok, like they really would, and they'd have a great time. And we went to beer gardens that were set up for that, pubs that had playgrounds, all of those things. And in England, which obviously is where I grew up, although that wasn't necessarily the norm when I was a kid, but there now, like, lots of pubs have big play areas, and it's very much encouraged. And the reason for that is because the publicans are making money. It's because of food. You introduce food into an establishment like that. Pubs once upon a time were just the preserve of men, working class men, broadly speaking, and women bust their way into those front bars and snugs over a while and said, I want to be here.
Kids with them.
And then they brought their bloody kids. And I think in a way, I would never argue for, I think it's great for kids to see their parents drinking. I am very aware of how problematic our over-acceptance of alcohol is in social situations. But I think the more, as you said at the beginning, Jessie, the more places where children aren't welcome, the more isolated parents are. Because it's different. I would say it's even different now where I live in a regional area, in a much more suburban environment. There are more options for how you get together with people. There's more space. There are also clubs, which are places that often you never go to until you have kids, and you go there because they're very often open to kids, right? And they'll have kids'
a green
play areas,
space,
and they'll have a green space, and they've designed it that way because they want you to spend your money there, and at least it's a communal place where people are getting together. So the more places kids can't come, the more isolated I am. I would have been at home alone.
Yeah, and it's sometimes the only option where you don't have to cook and clean. Yeah. And that's the kind of relief for, mum or dad. But I also find the cultural difference as a point of tension, because I know people who have gone overseas and expected that they can bring their child to a restaurant, and you go, oh, that's not how they do it here. Like, it's very dependent on different places. We were talking to someone at work who lived in Sweden, and you simply wouldn't. You wouldn't take your kids.
Yeah, but then when I was in Italy, anyone will tell you who's in Italy, the kids will run around till 11 o'clock at night and no one bats an eyelid. Not in a formal dining setting. Again, like, to the common sense point you were saying about the tennis, I think there's a formal dining setting where it would be irritating to have a kid there. Although, if that kid is quiet and on a screen, if I'm irritated by that, that's just about my judgment. It's not about my actual experience, and I should examine that myself. But that in lots of Southern Europe, kids are part of every interaction and nobody gets upset about it.
And what I'm interested in is why you think people are getting more upset about it these days as well. What's that about? Because Claire Stevens wrote a fantastic Substack about an experience she had recently along these lines.
Yeah, on a plane. And I just think a plane is it's the most ridiculous place for someone to get mad about you being with your toddler, because you're like, by the way, I don't want to be spending time with this toddler on a steel box in the air either. I'm not enjoying this. And again, it's somewhere where it's like we have no other choice. But I wonder, we talked last week about declining birth rate, and I wonder if that does cause an increasing hostility.
Because people just see fewer kids around.
Yeah, the less it happens, the more you kind of go, oh, well, we don't expect children in this space, and maybe we build less spaces that cater to them. And in that way, I think that you get the aggression or the irritability of people who maybe have never experienced that before.
Yeah, and it's a fine line, isn't it? Because, it seemed like before I was saying that you shouldn't take kids to sort of optional public spaces, but Holly, you've made me reflect on the idea that when you have children and you want them to be interesting and interested people, you want to take them to different experiences from an early age, which includes the tennis. It includes a premiere if that's part of your life. You want to expose them to diverse sets of circumstances. And there's something a little bit sad about the idea of keeping your kid cooped up at home where they can't upset anybody until the age of 18 when they're suddenly
100%.
allowed everywhere.
Yeah. And should we always be meeting kids in their world, or sometimes are they welcome into the adult world as well? And is that good for them to see their parents socializing and living their own lives?
I think about the planes. I've never met a parent who's delighted about taking their small child on a plane, but if they have to travel from A to B, they're going to do it. The reason people are grumpier and grumpier, and it's nearly always men who are grumpier and grumpier, is, again, there used to be many fewer women in these kind of public spaces. And although I'm always the person who's saying parenting isn't just for women, very often it's the mother who's, if she's traveling, the kid comes. If she's going out, the kid comes. It's very often. And it'll often be a man in a business suit who thinks that planes are a place that he's working, that he's
got to concentrate.
It's quiet, it's serious here. I should be able to get my shut eye and all those things. And he doesn't think of it as a public space when it is one. And surely the other one is just our increasing discomfort with discomfort, right? Is that because I've also seen young women get very upset about mums and babies on planes, or parents and babies on planes, and I understand why, because they like to be able to control any interaction in their life because they can, because of everything we talk about all the time, the fact that you can curate the opinions you have to hear, you curate what you're going to eat and who you're going to see and who you're going to pick up the phone to. And in a plane, everybody's lives are like on you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whether it's the guy who's snoring or the baby who's crying or the person with a cough or, the person who insists on not putting the headphones in or whatever it is.
Welcome to public spaces.
Exactly. And we're just less and less comfortable, I think, with public spaces. Just on this, by the way, in another chapter of Mothers Can Never Win is Sophie Turner, the actress, former Game of Thrones actress, very famously divorced from a Jonas. She was recently posting pictures of herself at one of the Oasis concerts at Wembley, and she looks like she's having a great time. And all the comments are like, where are your children? Where are your children? And so she clapped back and said, have you ever heard of this thing called shared custody? Maybe the kids were with their dad that day. And I just was like, so if you don't take your kids, you're going to get criticized. If you do take your kids, you're a bad mother. Like, there is no winning in this situation.
I have some feedback. There's been a lot of hate thrown around lately, and I feel incredibly defensive. The internet has inexplicably turned on what has been labelled stomp, clap, hey music, which feels incredibly disrespectful to the early 2000s. One post on X.
Poor millennials. Everyone's coming for you.
They're coming for all of our things. A post on X reads, of stomp, clap, ho, hey, indie folk was terrible. And to refresh your memory, if you're going, I don't recall this genre, well, here's a little taste.
Oh, it's Ben.
I loved it.
I love that song.
I'm so happy. Yep.
I was immediately transported to a barn in a field drinking a cocktail with a sprig of rosemary in a mason jar.
It was a simpler time, Amelia. It was such a lovely time. So think Mumford & Sons, of Monsters and Men, the Lumineers. Think man in a waistcoat. Yes. Another has an indie hat. Maybe throw some suspenders in there. Maybe the man with the hat has suspenders. He's also got a bassoon and a beard.
And a moustache.
Yes. And a moustache, so much, but very unkempt. This was the moment where millennial hipsterdom hit its peak. And
Jessie, those were the days.
And they took our skinny jeans and they took our socks and they took our parts and just leave our stomp, clap, hey, ho music alone because it doesn't hurt anyone.
Did this have anything to do also with Anna Kendrick and the Cups, remember? And then yes. She's like, that
was the evolution.
Like, that was fun.
I feel like Zooey Deschanel's all over this moment too.
Oh, exactly. It was such a lovely time and I just feel the Gen Zs just keep going back and just like raining on our parade. But I have such nostalgia for that moment and I think it should come back.
A massive thank you to all the Out Louders who've been here with us. It's been a roller coaster today.
Oh,
Goodness me.
peaks and troughs.
Listening to our show, and to, of course, our fabulous team for helping us put it together. We're going to be back in your ears tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.